everyone, welcome to the remote open days of the European Parliament 2021. My name is Raffaele Fitto, I am from Italy and I am one of two co-chairmen of the European Conservative Group. Today we want to show you what we Conservatives are doing in Brussels and in Strasbourg, what our work looks like in the parliamentary committees, and share the reason why our values and the way of thinking is important for preserving the partnership of sovereign member states in the EU for all our benefit and for future generations. Since the ECR Group's creation, our members have been the voice of Eurorealism in the European Parliament, calling for respect for the sovereignty of Europe's national democracies, the promotion of economic recovery and growth, less bureaucracy, controlled immigration and equality for all member states. The ECR rejects the centralizing federalist agenda that argues that our only choice is between more Europe or no Europe. What sort of choice is that? We promote the compromise that the people of Europe want. A European Union that does less but does it better. We aspire for a union to be a coalition of nation states that choose to work together in areas where they have common interest. A community that respects the rights and the legitimacy of each other. As you can see, the ECR Group occupies a unique space in Brussels politics. It is the only political group that opposes further centralization and the creation of a European federal superstate. By putting Europe's national democracies back in the driving seat, we can build a Europe that will offer a platform for cooperation that will help promote prosperity and security for generations to come.
Hello, my name is Ryszard Legutko. I am a philosophy professor from Poland, but I am also a member of the European Parliament and chairman of the ECR Group alongside my colleague and friend Raffaele Fitto. The ECR Group is fighting for European prosperity. We recognize that the European project has spun out of control and needs urgent reform. From the late 1950s to the 1990s, the political architecture in Europe was balanced. The European institutions had clear but limited powers that were subject to the direction of sovereign European democracies. And it was during those years that the European community had its most added value. However, a succession of rushed treaties over the last 20 years has upset the past balance by handing more power to the European institutions. Today, Brussels possesses substantial, unchecked political clout without any serious forms of accountability. The drive for an ever closer union is no longer an expression of hope for European citizens to work together. It has become a dogma to justify a centralized federal Europe with less and less regard for the rights of its national democracies. Our solution in the ECR Group is titled A New Hope for Europe's Future. Our proposal is to rebuild the European Union of sovereign nation states, acting together when necessary or when opting into chosen projects. Europe is a place where nations should nurture and protect their cultures and traditions, where freedom, sovereignty, and independence should be defended, and where individuals, families, and communities should thrive. We need to reassert that nation-states are the primary bearers of feelings of collective identity and solidarity. Our national democracies are the primary political entities in Europe and are the source of the Union's democratic legitimacy. They are not the subjects of the European Union. They are its owners. They need to be put back in the driving seat. The final point raised by my co-chairman of the ECR Group, Raffaele, is why our group heavily emphasizes protecting the core elements of civilization, democracy, and religious freedom. For this reason, the ECR has placed the plight of persecuted Christians prominently on the EU foreign policy agenda. Around the world, Christians suffer as the largest target of religious persecution, and cases are on the rise. For too long, this has been ignored by EU foreign policy, but thanks to the ECR Group's members, more action will now be taken to combat this religious persecution. Protecting freedoms and human dignity are at the heart of the ECR's foreign policy aims. The ECR Group continues to ensure that the human rights agenda of the European Parliament respects national interests as well as maximizes the collective power of the EU. The ECR Group believes that the EU does not need a centralized foreign policy to bring attention to pressing international issues and challenge human rights violations. What we do need is to listen to the member states. And yet, there is so much more to the ECR Group. For you, our viewers, we have some of our MEPs that coordinate the actions of our group in committees that deal with energy, economy, agriculture, education, and immigration to tell you a bit more about us. Thank you for your continued interest and keep watching.
Hello everyone, my name is Marie and I'm happy to welcome you and joining us watching this video on the European Parliament. Have you ever wondered what is happening here inside the European Parliament? Well, watching this video will show you how we see it from the point of view of the ECR Group. As explained by the ECR co-chairman, the ECR Group is a center-right political group in the European Parliament. The ECR Group stands for the sensible middle way between more Europe and no Europe. But how does that work in the different committees? What does it mean to be a representative of the ECR Group in committees such as, for example, budget, economy or transport? Let us find out more because our key people, they will tell you how they envision the economy, where they see the opportunities and challenges of free trade, how we can set ambitious climate goals with respect for national economies. They will also tell us about the transport and which role that can play for all that.
My name is Johan van Overtveld. I am a Belgian MEP for the party N-VA. I was already elected to the European Parliament in 2014, but immediately afterwards I became Belgium's Minister of Finance. Now I'm back, again within the ECR Group, and I am chairman of the Budget Committee of the European Parliament and coordinator for the group in the Econ Committee. With respect to the Budget Committee, we had a very tough last year with the MFF and the RRF negotiations. And as a coordinator for Econ, there are a lot of files like the digital economy, financial security, and other things that are on the agenda. I'm happy to be in the ECR Group, which is a group that has, as such, a positive attitude towards Europe, but wants to reform the European Union. And I think the European Union is indeed in need of some reform.
My name is Alexander or Sasha Vondra, and I am an MEP from the Czech Republic. In the past, I served to my country as the foreign minister, as the defense minister, and now I'm serving in Brussels, in Strasbourg, to defend mostly the freedom, the liberty. As with my previous experience in this end, I perfectly know that freedom is not for free. It must be upheld, it must be defended in the morning, at noon, and in the evening. And I'm doing this within our ECR fraction. And beyond that, my key specialization now as a former natural scientist, I started as a geographer, is the environment. Because the green policy is overwhelmingly conquering the world. And here what is really important is to defend the green policy as a nature conservation, not as a red-green ideology which wants to engineer the human life and plays a role of the dictator. Not at all. We need to find a balance between protecting the nature and keeping the freedom of the humankind. And that's my fight in the European Parliament.
Welcome to European Parliament Open Days. Transport was always the backbone of European Union. The same it's for us, European Conservative and Reformists. In transport policy, European Conservative Reformists was always fighting for two issues. The first one was we would like to have enough resources to finalize all the high-speed train links which are still missing in the European Union, and some member states are still not connected with each other. So I think we succeeded, and in the next 7 years some of those large-scale cross-border projects will be finalized. And secondly, European Conservative Reformists was always advocated true single market. Being it road freight transport or being it aviation, we always are against so-called social dumping argumentation not to allow free competition in the European Union transport market.
Hello again. We just heard from different ECR people how they envision the EU, how they see how the European Union should work. It is clear that for the ECR Group it is important to go back to a Europe as a community of sovereign member states, a community where there is mutual respect, cooperation and solidarity. But how is this reflected on topics such as culture, agriculture or women's rights? We will find out more soon, but first we're going to watch a video on the ECR core values.
The ECR Group is the voice of Eurorealism, the sensible middle way between ever more Europe and no Europe, with respect for the sovereignty of Europe's national democracies, with less bureaucracy, more fiscal responsibility and equality for all member states. We believe the peoples of Europe want the European Union to do less and to do it better, to promote economic recovery and growth and more jobs, to help, not hinder our countries in getting immigration under control, to deliver a clean environment at a cost we can afford, to work with global partners to protect our security, to create jobs through free and fair trade. Europe should only act where it can deliver real added value to member states and their citizens. By putting Europe's national democracies back in the driving seat, we can build a Europe that will offer our countries a platform for cooperation, that will help promote European prosperity and security for generations to come.
Being a member of the European Parliament is often demanding. With so many avenues to express oneself, it is important to concentrate on what is important to be able to set priorities. As a Vice Chair of Parliament's Culture and Education Committee, I have the privilege to actively work on topics that matter more for people than headlines. Take culture heritage, which the vast majority of Europeans agree is important to them personally, as well as to their communities. Having successfully adopted my file on culture heritage, the Parliament has sent a strong message that promotion and protection of it must be at the core of the EU's recovery and reflected in the digital and green agendas. Culturally and linguistically diverse Europe must be strengthened, and that applies to many policies. Coming from a small member state, I continue advocating for geographical balance in various EU programs and initiatives. A truly diverse Europe is one where each country, whether small or big, developed or developing, is equally treated.
Food production, land and forest management have been put in the spotlight as key areas to help achieve the new European green ambition. We do support farmers and their cooperatives in a smooth transition to further sustainability, but We also acknowledge all the efforts done so far by farmers to integrate consumers' expectations. A fair and sound common agricultural policy, CAP, is one of our main priorities as ECR. The CAP is the backbone of agriculture in the European Union, a key tool to both sustainability and competitiveness across Europe. ECR regrets that we ask our farmers to do more with less money. We want all models of agriculture to be sustainable. There is no single way to make our agriculture more sustainable. Some political groups are only environment-oriented. In ECR, we defend a balance between environmental, economic, and social aspects. Let me highlight that without farmers on the ground, we will not be able to protect the environment, and population will leave rural areas. We fight for farmers to have decent income. All ECR members in the Agri Committee actively promoted decision-making based on facts and science. ECR will be in front of the green populism. We will continue pushing for a simplification of the relation and a more balanced and transparent food supply chain.
Hello, I hope you are keeping well. I wish to welcome all of you. My name is Jadwiga Wiśniewska. I am a Polish politician. In this short video, I would like to bring my work in the European Parliament as an ECR FEM coordinator closer. FEM is a committee responsible for women's rights and gender equality. It is here where we are dedicated to women's issues. ECR's policy on women's rights focuses on empowering women by different means. I believe that equality should be measured by access to equal opportunities. This is why I stand for women. I stand for the decisions they are undertaking. If it is to take care of a family or be active in the professional field, a woman's decision should be supported and respected. As a FEM coordinator, I advocate ensuring a balance between family and work. In my work, I emphasize the core role of the family in society, where human life is protected and pro-family policies are supported and developed. In ECR, we have a strong focus on achieving protection for women from physical and sexual violence, both on and offline. We deplore current existing practices of female genital mutilation and forced marriages, especially when it comes to children. We advocate any measure to eradicate these barbaric practices from the EU territory and globally. We are working hard to empower women and their rights. We will always stand for what is right.
It is obvious that the policies of the European Union have a great impact on the lives of European citizens. However, we should not forget that the EU policies also affect the lives of people living outside the EU. This work is dealt with by the Committees on Foreign Affairs, International Trade and the Committee on Home Affairs, Justice and Liberties. Our experts will tell you soon more about these topics, but first we're going to watch a video on the ECR values on trade and economy.
The ECR Group believes that one of the best ways of improving the lives of EU citizens on a day-to-day basis is to champion economic prosperity by reducing barriers within the single market, so we all have greater choice and better prices, whilst ensuring that consumer rights are upheld across all member states so we can trust what we buy. To make sure all regions and parts of the EU can benefit from this stronger internal market, we support improving transport infrastructure and accessibility. The ECR Group has led the way on common sense policy making and ensuring that the EU properly implements the competitiveness test, particularly for small and medium-sized businesses, to avoid unnecessary red tape. As part of our approach to nurturing economic growth and prosperity, discussing the opportunities and challenges of free trade is at the heart of ECR policies. The ECR Group supports in principle opening the European market to non-EU products, in order to get the best deals for our European consumers and to create new opportunities for our exporters. But this must be done carefully, in a planned and controlled way, to ensure that the trading partnership is fair and that no sector or regions are left behind. An EU which connects its citizens and its member states, allowing them to live, work and travel without unnecessary obstacles and bureaucracy, is an EU that is delivering an added value.
Long ago, we decided within ECR to play in terms of foreign and security policy of the EU above our formal weight. Due to this, we were able to put real contribution into common positions of the European Parliament on Russia, on China, on Africa, on NATO, and in particular on transatlantic issues. We are the most transatlantic political group within the European Parliament.
My name is Geert Bourgeois and I'm the head of delegation of the N-VA, which is the biggest political party in Flanders. And I am the coordinator for ECR in the Committee on International Trade, or INTA for short. As a former Prime Minister, I have witnessed from the front row how important free, fair and rules-based trade is for our prosperity. With our unified European internal market, we in the EU have a huge advantage that we can play out globally. International trade is not just economically important for the EU. Trade builds bridges between peoples and creates stability and peace in the world. With that in mind, I am a strong defender of international trade. One of the most important files I am following up is Brexit. I regret the loss of our British partners. Brexit will have an impact no matter what. But it's not only Brexit that is a major challenge. The corona pandemic has also exposed some of the pain points in our international dependency. A decisive recovery policy requires now more than ever an EU that commits to multilateralism and rules-based free and fair trade.
Hi everybody, my name is Nicola Procaccini, Italian MEP of ECR and coordinator for the group in the LIBE committee. The committee that deals with civil liberties, justice and home affairs. The most discussed topic is usually migration, where two different points of view come up. That of the leftists who consider illegal migration a founding ideology of the socialist identity. Instead, we consider it to be a huge problem in terms of the destabilization of public order and the safety of European citizens. And also for the illegal migrants themselves, who are illusioned by left-wing NGOs that they would find paradise in Europe, but instead will find criminality that exploits them and humiliating living and working conditions. Our proposal is to stop illegal departures, breaking the link with the human traffickers by screening in the countries of origin who has the right and who has no right to enter Europe. It is poor common sense, but the mainstream tries to portray our position as that of the villains in Disney's movies. Another subject that has often been debated harshly in the committee is the gender theory and the attempt of the left to turn every wish into a right. It is again the so-called no borders ideology that they would like to impose on all European peoples. We are fighting for the defense of families, cities, national identities, cultural traditions, religious sentiment at the basis of our civilization. In short, the LIBE Committee is perhaps the terrain in which conservatives must fight most vigorously in defense of their principles. Let us play our game as a proud team. with respect for all, but fearing no.
Now you heard from the different people from the ECR Group how they look at topics discussed in the European Parliament. It is clear that for the ECR Group we should focus more on decentralization to foster a secure Europe, to promote free and fair trade. But how does the ECR Group envision the future of Europe? In fact, the ECR Group was the first group in the European Parliament who put forward its ideas on the future of Europe in the form of the campaign, the ECR Future of Europe campaign. The ECR Group does not believe in extremes. There is a middle way. It is time to restore the ideal of Europe with respect for the sovereignty of its national democracies. You want to find out more? Stay tuned.
There's a new hope for Europe. A Europe of jobs, prosperity, and recovery. A Europe that safeguards its citizens and borders. There's a Europe that respects its national democracies, that protects the environment and nurtures its rural economies. There's a Europe that does less and does it better, that cuts bureaucracy and adds value for you. There's a Europe that looks inwards and outwards, for trade, for security, and for friendship. It's time to get Europe under control and back on track. It's time for a new hope for Europe. It's time to reset EU.
For the ECR Group, it's very important to know what people on the street think about the European Union. So we went to ask on the street and ask the people what they really think is the EU. What does the EU mean for them? How do they envision the EU? Do we need more EU or do we need less EU? What is the real added value of the EU today and how do they see the EU in the future?
No, super state, no, but certainly an improved version of what we have. A better leadership for sure, because the Commission is, I think it's not working. And the Commissioners are low caliber. I don't think very highly of them. So I think we depend on the Parliament to push the agenda, keep the agenda in check, because it's too politicized, the Commission.
Maybe not a super state, but yeah, I see the EU. I would like it to have quite some importance in Europe. Yes.
The organization as a whole, it's important for the nations. That's for sure, in my opinion. But on the other hand, the nations should have, let's say, some sort of power that should remain. So not to give out all the power to a unique, established organization.
I think I would prefer a union.
I think it's important that every country can have their individual, but that we are reunited, because otherwise, like a small country as Belgium is nothing against a superpower like America or China. So I think we have to stick together as the European Union, but that we have to appreciate the individuality of each country, and that's a difficult measurement to make.
Do you want the EU to become bigger, to have more responsibilities, or you think that the EU should focus more on economic responsibilities?
It's a good question. I believe maybe they should focus on economic properties, because if they would take power away from the countries itself, it could mean that more countries like Great Britain would exit the European Union. And Great Britain is a vital part, or was a vital part in the economic growth in the European Union, and we lost that. And I think if we, if the European Union takes more power, it would destabilize actually the balance we have right now in the countries and the European Union in itself.
So if I understand correctly, for you it's very important to have a balance between the responsibilities of the EU and the responsibilities of the EU member states.
Yes, I think that's very important, because not every country is on the same page. Some are becoming more right, some are keeping left or becoming more left. And if you would like take the rule for all the countries, you would get, it would destabilize.
After the Vox Pop, we will be watching a debate between Professor Krasnodebski, Spanish MEP Margarita de la Pisa, and Peter Lundgren will follow live from Sweden. They will discuss the future of Europe.
Hello, thank you very much, Marie, for this introduction. And let me start now debate with the members of the European Parliament. And my name is Dominika Ciosic. I'm correspondent of Polish Public Television, Telewizja Polska TVP. And let me introduce our guest, First Lady, Madame Margarita de la Pisa, member of Vox Party from Spain, Professor Zdzisław Krasnodębski from Law and Justice in Poland, and we have also Mr. Lundgren from Swedish Democrats from Sweden, of course.
Thank you.
First question will be more general for all of you. We are now in the very crucial moment of a debate on the future of Europe. As we know, it was ECR Group who has started as a first political fraction in the European Parliament, but also in the European Union. This debate, it was ECR who started also to talk with the citizens about the future of Europe. So, what is the position of your party, and what is the position of your country as well? Because in Spain, Vox is not in the government, so maybe it is different position between a statement of your party and your government.
We are really concerned about the Spanish situation because our government arrived to the power, it's the left, and they are trying to do a very speedy change, very deeply change in our policies. For example, 1 month ago, they introduced a new law of euthanasia. What I'm trying to say is that they are trying to change our way of life. They are trying to change our tradition and imposing us an ideology, only way to think, that is being imposed. So, of course, that we are trying to fight and to battle to keep our traditions, our values, our traditional values, because we find in them like a key of success. We are what we receive of our presidents, and we have to value it as a treasure. And of course, we have to look to the future, but holding in our roots basis on our Christian humanist. That is the key of our, of our happiness, of the way that we understand a life of solidarity and a life that we can share a society without the friction that the left is trying to give to us.
In Poland, we have different situation because your party, Law and Justice, is the government party, so there is one voice between your party and the government. But what is the position of Law and Justice and also Poland according to the institutional changes? Because we are facing, at least I see this, the rising power of the European Commission and the European Parliament, who would like to reduce power of member states. So what is your position? What do you think? Do you think that maybe it is time to talk about changes of treaties?
Yes, we are, of course, in better position than our friends in Spain and our friends in Sweden. We hope it will change, but we have all the same problem, the problem of destroying of our traditional way of life. Polish way of life, Spanish way of life, Swedish, Italian, and so on. Generally, I would say I love Europe because of diversity of this national cultures, and also that we have some common values, which was mentioned by my colleague. And we think that, of course, on one hand, this Conference of Future of Europe is a chance that the silent minority will be visible, will be heard. And we have to do all in order to mobilize our citizens, who I think they are majority in Europe, who were until now dominated by left liberal organization, politicians, and so on. And then, of course, it is very important, first of all, stick to the rules, to the treaties, but also to prevent this misleading interpretation of the treaties, misleading in order to make the competences of the Commission, of the European institution, more and more broad, and to intervene also in the realm like social life, values, and so of the member states. If we are lucky, we can also propose a change of the treaties in order to stress the true, genuine European solidarity of the nation, and also Europe based of the nation, and also of our common values, which are common European heritage. But the struggle is before us.
That's true. Mr. Lundgren, what about Sweden, and what about your party?
Well, we believe the same. We realize, of course, we need to have a European cooperation. And as a small country, that's very important. But the most important things to keep in Europe is the culture, the history, the traditions of each country. And in this area, European Union has a slogan that says united in diversity. But I'm afraid that is not just much more than a slogan, because all the lawmaking is making all the countries the same, and the ultimate goal is, of course, to create the United States of Europe, pretty much. So we believe to cooperate, we trade, we are being good friends, we help each other out when there's a problem, but we should also be very, very careful about our history, the culture, the tradition, because that is actually what makes a country a country. So that is what we believe about this. And we are therefore the members of the ECR Group, since we have a clear ambition. We want to reform our membership in the Union. So that is why we're sitting in this group.
Mrs. Stepiso, you have mentioned already traditional values that we have to protect this now. We are facing a very progressive ideology who is dominating now. At least I have this impression in also this building, the European Parliament. So how can institution protect this traditional model of family? Is it already a good time for this, or maybe it is already too late to protect these traditional values?
Of course not. We have to say one time and another, and to remember that the family is the first natural unit of any society that responds or inside in our person order, because we have a need of love and to be loved. No? So we have to remember each time that the family is not an invention. It's a natural institution that have to be protected. We understand this well when we find a kid that have grown up without the love of their parents. We understand the challenge. But at the same time, we are not protecting the family as a value, and we let our society to be infected with an ideology that is emptying the meaning of our values, inviting us to follow a life without responsibility, without commitments, that will unsatisfy everybody. So I think that because nobody can be happy, can be satisfied with this kind of values, they will need another option. That is, it will be again our traditional values. We feel that when they hear Vox, they find in our message hope. They find in our message like the beauty and an answer of a confusion about, because the people feel isolated, feel lonely. So I think that what we have to do in the institution is to repeat once and another the same message, the same hope message. That is what Vox is doing, because our message is full of common sense. So we'll touch the heart of the people. So being here, being member of the Euro Parliament, here is the special place for a very special place for the cultural battle, because the cultural battle is taking place here in Europe. So I think that it's here where we have to do this noise and let spread out this message loud and with the confidence, you know, that we are handle the truth and something that will satisfy the hearts of everyone.
One just short follow-up question, because in Poland there is a social program called 500+ to support family on a financial way. Maybe we need some European instruments to support families.
It's a bit difficult, this, for example. Euro Parliament looks like very focused in the social policies. Looks like. I say looks like because after what they bring is like a artificial infrastructure to remove the natural one, that is the family. It means that they consider the person as individual, isolated from the other. They don't consider the relationships. They don't consider the family. So we are always asking, you can afford any social policy without taking into account the family. But the truth is that we are really worried because they are trying to afford the social competence of Europe, but we always remember that it's a national competence, but also we don't like the way that they afford, because they even talk without saying once family, and we can understand that. You know, any social policy needs to consider the relationships of the others and, of course, the family.
Thank you. Another very important topic for the future of Europe and current situation in Europe, it is migration policy. Now we'll have a new agenda for the migration policy presenting by the European Commission. What is your point of view, Mr. Lundgren? What do you think? Which kind of migration policy do we need as a European Union?
It needs to change completely. We were the country based on capita. We were the country that took in most migrants during 2015. And that is also a fact because the Dublin regulation is not working. We see people traveling all the way from the Mediterranean up to Sweden because it's a well-known fact that we have generous welfare systems in Sweden. So they look for that, of course. And it has put a strain on the welfare system in Sweden. It is difficult to be able to handle everything. And unfortunately, it's very often the elderly people that will find themselves having a very poor retirement payment and so on. So it needs to change, and there needs to be a total grip of this. If you have a refugee status, then of course we try to help out. But that is not what we are seeing now coming into Europe, because that is mainly, and that is what the European Commission said themselves, it's economic migrants. And I can understand, of course, that you want to search for a better life with a better income and so on, but that is not a refugee status. Then you need to stay at home in your own country. You need to help that country to develop. You need to help them to get a well-working society like the rest of Europe. It doesn't help to then try to escape to the other end of Europe to try to find a better living situation. You have to fight for your country. That is what our ancestors have done for many years. They fought a very struggling, hard battle to create a better lifestyle for themselves. It takes a lot of work, and the migration policy from European Union shouldn't even be placed in the European Union, because it's definitely a national issue. It's definitely up to every country to decide how many refugees or migrants you can take in. So I don't believe in the European Union's migration policy. I believe it should be strictly national competence.
So we turn back to the initial point of view, initial issue, which have been raised by Professor Krasnodębski. It means the role of national states and also how important should be position of national governments regarding the main topics, like, for example, migration policy, social policy. You told already that we need stronger member states. Also in the different politics, how can we achieve this?
Probably, first of all, we have to insist on this, what is in the current treaties, subsidiarity, competences of the member states, and so on. We have also to fight against this crazy ideology, because as Margarita said, it is actually, we defend something what was totally self-understandable some years ago. It is common sense. We are against excessive individualism and against totalitarian tendency to create a new man, new human being. And this was always in all totalitarian political currents or movements. And then I think my dream is a reset of Europe, because Union is actually against, in this current state, is against Europe. This is not Europe, this is something. And to reset Europe and to create or to reform this Europe as a confederation of the free nation with a respect for each other, for own tradition, for common sense, for common people. And if we talk about traditional values, what are the traditional values? The same we know this from classic Greek philosophy. It is truth, good, and beauty.
Greek ancient philosophy. Yes. Very short last question. Professor Krasnodębski mentioned already that there is kind of a silent minority of the Europeans who share your point of view.
Silent majority.
Majority. Yes, of course, my mistake. Silent majority of the people in Europe who share your point of view. Do you have the impression that in Spain you also have this silent majority people thinking like you?
I think that, in fact, we are a majority. But we have to sow the false meaning, the marketing campaign that this globalist is doing with the people, because they bring like very nice measures, of course. To finish with the poverty looks like very nice, but they never explain how they are going to do, at what kind of freedoms they are going to take it us. Taking out us. So at the point that we are able to sow all of these lies, the pain and the unhappiness that all of this ideology will bring us, that I think that many people already have, because I see that the people is so confused. The people are lost. It's lost. So at this point, when we are able to sow this, who is not going to want to follow the common sense? Because it's the voice of it's an interior voice. I mean, with Vox happen all the time that when the people hear us say, this is the way I'm thinking. But because the others say different things, I'm a bit confused. But suddenly they hear the truth, they hear easy ideas, because the others are so difficult to understand. And the people maybe understand that they are stupid or not intelligent because they are not understanding, but anybody can understand this marketing idea that they want to bring us as present of, as something really, really nice, because that is not true, And so I think that it's a matter of, will be a matter of time. And slowly, it's a drill, day by day, remembering and never stop to appreciate the gift of the light, to appreciate our heritage, because we are lucky to receive this kind of values. We have to appreciate that this is something that will help us to see the future, knowing more. But we are trying to erase to finish what we are before and always saying sorry, sorry. We have not to be sorry. Of course, that there are things that we maybe as civilization we didn't do right, but there are many others that is an example of success, and we have to be proud of what we are.
Mr. Lundgren, what about your country? And as I know, you have something to announce as well.
I do. But I would say I believe in what Mr. Krasnodebski just said. I believe the majority think like we do. The only problem is that we have a problem reaching out with our message, with our politics, because Brussels and the European Union, they get a lot of space for the left-wing parties, but in the same time they try to brand us, for example, as being right-wing parties with, of course, a negative approach. And that is a problem, because when people realize that we are actually people from the ECR Group, we love our countries and we are proud of them, and we also realize we need to have a cooperation in Europe, but it should be based on respect for each other's diversity, of course. So I believe Mr. Krasnodebski is right. It's a matter of getting the message out. And I also then, of course, as you said, I have a little bit of an announcement to make. We are now doing the Future of Europe tour all around the member states from the political parties within the ECR Group. And next Saturday, the 8th of May, we are having this event from Stockholm, my home country, and the capital city of Sweden. We will then continue this debate. We will talk about what we believe is correct development of European Union, what we see as problems, what we see as possibilities, and it will be interesting and I think fruitful debates coming out in this event. So I hope to see quite a lot of you tuning in on Saturday to the Stockholm event.
Thank you. We'll watch this, we'll observe this. And on the end, Professor Krasnodebski, I would like to ask you to resume the situation in which we are facing now about Conference of the Future of Europe. What will be the future agenda? And my very last question, how can we engage people, citizens, to take part in this debate?
As you probably know, there would be the opening events will be launched on 9th May, and then already there's open up is the multilingual internet platform. Everybody can register the events and make comments and so on. And then Union would like to organize citizens' panels. But I think we should also organize our citizens' panels. We plan something to do national panel in Poland, in order to give also the possibility to express themselves for the people who normally are not well organized, who are not well financed by the union, by other foundation and so on, but who have opinion and who in reality they would like to be active citizens, and they would like also that their voice could be heard here. And on the other hand, we can communicate better with our citizens, because we have also to make knowledge deeper what is Union about now, in which direction we are moving, what are the points of controversy, and also to make a positive proposal for the future in order to preserve our heritage.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Margarita de la Pisa, Mr. Peter Lundgren, and Professor Krasnodebski for taking part in this debate. And now I would like to give floor to two co-chairman of ECR Group, Professor Ryszard Legutko and Mr. Robert Fito. Thank you very much.
In defense of national sovereignty, The ECR Group in the European Parliament has become the primary voice of realism in enhancing Europe's internal and external security policies. The ECR believes that the expedient and through sharing of information between member states' law enforcement authorities is essential in the fight against cross-border crime, cybercrime and terrorism. Keeping Europe's citizens safe from the threat of violence and criminality must be a priority for the European Union. We also advocate for the EU to form a sustainable migration policy that respects the voice and the wishes of its member states and citizens. We must part from the current system, which serves the interest of only a few member states. Our focus should be cooperation, not compulsions. It is time for the people of Europe to rally against the centralizing federalist agenda that says the only choice is between more, Europe or no Europe. If you believe in a more intelligent EU, one that does less but better, then support the ECR that champions this cause. We are the voice of Euro-realism in the EP. For me, the future of the EU is more Italy. For Professor Legutko, it is more Poland. And for you, it is more representation and autonomy for your sovereign nation. Feel confident that you are not alone. Professor Legutko and I will be here representing you.
As Rafael has said, you are not alone. The ECR Group in the European Parliament will work towards our vision of a reformed European Union. With your support, we can reshape the European Union into a partnership of nation-states that choose to work together in areas of common interest. Your ECR commits itself to a community of European states that respect the rights and legitimacy of each other. As many referenda have shown, our ideas are not alone in Europe. Many people believe that the European Union has become too big, too centralized, and too out of touch with ordinary citizens. The European Union needs change, and your votes can be that change. Follow us. Follow the ECR.